Good afternoon. This is John Daly here. How are you? And I'm going to talk to you today about applications, cover letters, and resumes. And I'm going to share the screen with you. If you'll give me just a moment, I will share my screen with you. One moment, please. Where are we here? We're going to talk about the standard application, and we're going to talk about a resume, and we're going to talk about a cover letter and how they all come together and to be the proper way to go about getting a job. And it's important to listen to the different things that I'm bringing up, because I'll bring up some things that maybe you have not heard. Like, for instance, a job application is an official online hard copy of information from your potential employer that they ask you to fill out. It is a legal document, and that's very, very important to know that it is a legal document. And it's part of your official record with the company. So on an application, you want to be sure that you never, ever lie, because what can happen is later on in your career with that same company, you may be up for a promotion and they would go back and they would check out your application and find out that maybe you had a criminal record or something like that, and you didn't tell the truth about it. And if that is the case, they could fire you right then without any ifs, ands, or buts. Just absolutely fire you because on an official legal document, you lied. They may ask you for your social security number. If they do ask you for your social security number, you don't have to give them all of the numbers. You should do it like this. You should go XXX, XX, and then the last 4 digits of your social security number. That's just on your application. It's not that you're trying to hide it from them, your social security number, and you can tell them that. As a matter of fact, it's a good idea when you hand somebody your application or send in the application, attach it to a letter that says that you have not given your full social security number, but you'll be happy to once you have been approved for the job, and you can prove it. A note is 94% of applications applied for only online are rejected. And that's something that's very important to remember, because what you want to do after you have sent in an application online, you want to follow up with a phone call. The reason they don't necessarily accept an application is most companies hire another company that sorts through applications and decides whether the qualifications that they're looking for a certain job are met. And when they check out those qualifications, they may, for instance, I'm going to make up a very ridiculous thing that would never be asked for, but say that a company is looking for a blonde-haired, blue-eyed female that is 6'1", and she is going to run their computer department. Now, the girl fills out the application, and maybe she is blonde-haired and blue-eyed and 6'1", and answers all of the right questions, and then she says she plays with her computer. So there's one X against her, one thing, and it's only a computer that's going through these applications. So there's one qualification against her and 4 for her. But then you have another person that comes in and he's a male He's got black hair and brown eyes, and he's 5'9", and he is has a master's in computer science. Now, the person that's best fit for that job is obviously the man that came in afterwards. But the woman is more likely to be picked for the job because she has answered 4 of the 5 questions correctly as far as what they're looking for. By the way, that is just an example. They're never going to ask you your height, your weight, and the color of your hair and the color of your eyes. They're not going to ask questions such as that. But it's important to know that after you send in an application by online, always follow up with a phone call and try and talk to somebody in the hiring department. Okay? Now, what is a resume? A resume is a piece of paper that you have written on or have typed out, and it gives all of your qualifications. It is a document that describes your skills and past experience. And those are all very important. I want to adjust this, make it a little larger for you. It's important because this is the first document that you will present to a future employer. Therefore, it must be representative of your abilities to be clear, concise, neat, and well organized. So you have to make sure that your application not only has the right information in it, it looks good, it looks pretty. And that doesn't mean with lots of little flowers and things like that around it. That means that it needs to look very, very professional. No typos. You want to make sure there's no typos in that. You want to make sure that all the spelling is correct. It's very important. Your resume shows examples of what your abilities are by past history. So you're giving them your past history in your resume, and it's telling an awful lot about you. And this is like your first 20 seconds before the first 20 seconds that I talk about when you meet someone. It's very important that it is perfect. So when the employer reads it, they know that this is a person that they want to have be a part of their team. Your resume is often the ticket to admission for an interview. You don't always get an interview just because you sent in a resume. It has to be a good resume. I like to compare the resume to a hamburger sandwich. And with the top bun or the top of the resume has all your contact information. When you are doing your resume, always use the same font. I suggest that you use Times Roman font, because it's the easiest to read. Most people are very familiar with Times Roman, the font. And the size of the font makes a difference as well. I like to see an application or a resume, filled out with 14-point Times Roman. And that's easy to read. And you want to make it easy for the person to read it. When you put your name, address, and telephone and email information, all your contact information, you put that at the top of the page. And I suggest that you make that 16 points, just a little bit larger than the 14 points that you're going to use throughout the rest of the resume. On that, next thing that you're going to put is your objective of why you want the job. So, for instance, would be your objective in life is to become a nurse in the emergency room. And you're applying for a job at McDonald's, and you apply for the job at McDonald's and you say that your objective is to be a nurse in an ER room, and you know that by working at McDonald's, you will learn to be a team player, you'll learn to be able to communicate quickly and professionally, and you'll be able to move fast on your feet. And that's why you would like to be at McDonald's, because you're going to school and you need to make money while you're going to school. Don't put that into your objective, but that's why you're doing it. And then you need to put down your education. Now, your education only has to be the last several years. So if you've just gone through high school and that's all, put the date that you graduated from high school and the name of the high school and the date you graduated. That's what you want. If you're in college, you do the same thing. First year of college or second year of college, and whatever the name of the college is. In the very center of the resume is where you put your work experience. And if you do not have a lot of work experience, that's where you put your skills and your achievements, because you want to fill that. This is the main part of the resume, and it's the meat of the hamburger sandwich. The most important part of the hamburger sandwich is the center where you've got your skills and achievements or your work experience. If you don't have a lot of work experience, put your work experience down at the very bottom and put your skills and achievements in the middle, because that's what you're selling yourself with. Then that bottom bun is the skills and achievements or your work experience. So if you've done skills and achievements in the meat, then do work experience in the bottom. If you don't have any work experience, maybe you've done volunteer work someplace. Maybe there's been times when you've done that for community service hours when you were in school. That's what you want to put it down as, okay? Then it's very important that you add references, and you should add 3 references. A reference is someone that would vouch for you or speak well of you. So you want to concentrate on who you're going to ask to be your reference. And you want to have 3 of them. So make friends with teachers or a past employer or a fellow employee, wherever you are, and use them as a reference, or a mentor or a counselor of some sort, perhaps a coach, something like that. And what you put down, you first ask the person about if you can use them for a reference. That's the first thing you want to do, is ask them if it's possible to use them, and explain how you're going to use them. So you would call me and you would say, Mr. Daly, I'd like to use you as a reference, and I'm going to use you as my teacher. And so then when your future employer calls, I know that you've used me for a teacher, and I can say how well you did in school, et cetera, et cetera. Very important to have the 3 references down at the bottom. Your contact information is at the top of the resume, like I said, and it is always double check that you've written your correct email and your phone number. So here's an example of it. Your name at the very top and the street address, plus an apartment number or a suite number, if applicable, and the city, state, and zip code, your home phone number, and your cell phone number. And then you want to put your email address. Very important that the email address go on there. So that goes back to the classes that I've taught before where you want to make sure that your email address is professional sounding. That's a very important thing, that it's professional sounding. Because you don't want to have an email on a resume that is surferdude000@gmail.com. If that's what you have for an email, or if you have an email address that is not appropriate for business, you can keep that email address, but do another email address for all your professional interactions. The objective goes directly below the contact information. It allows the employer to know what job you're applying for and why you want that job. So like I said to you before, you're saying that you want the job because of what you can do for the company. Never bring up money or your benefits in a resume. Always bring up what it is that you can do for a company. So here's an example of an objective other than the one that I gave you. Entry-level sales position that can utilize my strong communication, organizational, and people skills, and provides experiences leading to an executive level management position in the hospitality industry. Okay. After your objective, you're going to put your education. And like I said once before, only list your current highest levels of education. List the year you graduated or your expected graduation date. GPA is not necessary. If you do have a great grade point average, then I suggest that you use it. If it's not so great, don't use it. If you think it will help, then use it. But otherwise, not a good idea. Like an example here is education, Mount Richmore High School, Goleta, California, expected graduation date, June of 2018. Or whenever you're, obviously that's behind us. So you would have a date that was ahead. Finding your strengths. A lot of people have a hard time finding their strengths because they don't know where to look. Think about your extracurricular activities, things that you like any kind of volunteering or sports teams that you may belong to. You want to put that down. Previous employment, family responsibilities. If it's your responsibility to do the cleaning and the cooking in the house, put that down. If it's your responsibility that you clean up after dinner every night, put it down. Have you belonged to any clubs? Are you in a band? Have you been in a band? Or do you play soccer? And with your team, do you play that every night after school, or every day? Do you play with a group of people? School organizations, if you have any, or community organizations. You can use these activities to discover your strengths and align those with the job for which you're applying. Excuse me for that ring. So, skills and achievements, you were maybe student of the month in June of 2017 with a leadership award in 2019, etc. Things like that. Those are all really good. Here's some examples. The Most Improved Player Award, the the team captain of your soccer team, or the student of the month, if you were student of the month in junior high even. Doesn't matter when you were a student of the month, that's a big deal. And you're a team player because you are on a soccer team or the football team or the baseball team or whatever it would be. You've been a team player. You work well under pressure. If you've been a member of a sports team, you could put down that you work well under pressure because there's a lot of pressure in a game when you're playing the game. And you perform well then. Are you a critical thinker? Are you organized, outgoing, social media proficiency, including Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, PowerPoint, and Google formats? All those are important. Instagram, TikTok, all those things are very important if you've been there, if that's part of your social skills. Your experience in your work history. Present, present and or past employment, including dates, companies, job titles, and relevant skills and accomplishments. Must list using your reverse chronological order. Start with your most recent work first and work backwards. An example, volunteer at Meals on Wheels in Santa Barbara, 2016 to the present. And you assisted in feeding 300 homeless residents in a fast-paced, high-energy environment during busiest holiday seasons, including Thanksgiving and Christmas. That's a very impressive thing to write in. Coordinated neighborhood food drive and personally collected over 50 pounds of canned goods to feed Meals on Wheels recipients. All these little things add up to be a big deal. These are really good words that I recommend you use for resumes when you're describing yourself. For instance, use these words if they're applicable to you. Personable, enthusiastic, determined, reliable, detail-oriented, dedicated, team player, outgoing, passionate. Describing your work. When you're describing your work, you want to say that if you worked on a class party, you want to say that you coordinated plans for a class party. Not if you didn't, but you don't want to just say that you worked on it if you didn't coordinate it. Organized a group project but the key word here is organize, because that says something about you and the type of person that you are, that you could organize. Developed public speaking skills. Okay, that's you by taking this class and the other ones that you're working on, that's developing your speaking skills because you're learning how to talk. Presented multiple business proposals to so-and-so. How many people have you written resumes for? How many people have you written cover letters for? All those things matter. You don't want to say that I've written 15 resumes and I still don't have a job, but you can say that you've presented multiple business proposals, because that's what a resume is. It's a business proposal. As a group leader, you delegated jobs. Very important. All these things, but keep this list. If you've got a moment, write down these words, because they're really powerful words that resonate well with future employers. Don't repeat or overuse the same words. For instance, if you were a barista at Starbucks in 2018 to August of 2019, you don't want to say that you worked with customers and with their orders. You don't want to work with the manager. You don't want to work with the stock shelves and inventory. Instead, say something along the line of helped customers with their orders. assisted the manager to organize the back room in order to keep organized and maintain the store order, and organized and stocked shelves and inventory on a regular basis. You see the difference? One makes people believe that you've done more things than you have, and the other makes it sound like it was a pain for you to do. References. Once again, like I talked about it at the very beginning, a past employer, a teacher, a coach, a friend. Parents are not a good source for the reference. If I wouldn't use your parents. If they have a different last name, you could use them, but don't use them as your parent. Use them as someone that you've worked for or something like that. Once again, I'm not suggesting that you lie about that at all. Don't lie. References are very important. Make sure you start creating and cultivating positive relationships now with teachers and coaches so you can build strong references. Resumes don't. On your resume, don't include your age, don't include your height, your weight, your race, your gender, your marital status, your picture. Never attach a picture to a resume. Your former employer's contact information. You can put your former employer's name down, but don't put the contact information. Do not put your social security number on your resume, and your sexual orientation is nobody's business. And your religious affiliations is no one's business. You want to stay away from writing that down. Exclude irrelevant hobbies for the job that you are seeking. So if, for instance, you go horseback riding every day after school and you are applying for a job with a veterinarian, you would want to put that down. But if you were applying for a job to work at McDonald's, you wouldn't put that down because it has nothing to do with working at McDonald's. Does that make sense? I hope it does. Avoid negative impressions. Asking someone to proofread your letter and resume before you send them in. Always, always have at least one other set of eyes look at your resume before you send it out. One or two people should look at it. If you have a English teacher, if you're in school and you're writing a resume, or if not, somebody that really speaks really good English or knows the English language well, have someone like that look at your resume. It's very important. You want to make sure there are no typos. Like a typo, you could change a word completely by misspelling it. So organized and well-written resumes and applications make a person seem reliable and responsible. It's very important. Lying, even about if you have a criminal record, do not lie. They're not going to ask you if you have a criminal record on your resume because that's something you're putting together. I don't suggest that you write it in if you do. But if you do, and they ask you that on the application, be honest about it, okay? Try and keep your resume to one page. When someone sits down to read your resume, you've got approximately 20 seconds of their time to gain their attention. If they don't have their attention by that first 20 seconds, they usually will put it aside. If you have written a good objective and so on, then they will read further on your resume. These are some really good resume builders for templates. A template is a bunch of words that are put together to guide you in how you write the resume. It will guide you just like I've guided you all the way through. And you can use Microsoft Office, or Google has a good one. If you're willing to pay for it, you can go to livecareer.com or myperfectresume.com or resumes.com. Any of those, they'll work. But it's something that it's important that you use a resume builder, because it makes it all look very organized and professional. You're not going to just write things out. You're going to write it out according to filling in the template, which is, like I said, the words that are going to guide you along the way. Now, let's take a minute and talk about a cover letter. A lot of people say today, in today's job market, that a cover letter is not necessarily something that people are doing. I disagree with that. I disagree because I know that of people that look for a cover letter before they go to read the resume. So a cover letter is a formal letter that goes with your resume and highlights your skills and interests related to the job that you are applying for. So, for instance, it's a concise document that shows the future employer that you understand the job for which you are applying for. A cover letter will help the future employer decide if you are a good fit for the business. Now, when I say it's meant to highlight certain skills, past experiences, or interests that relate to the job for which you are applying, what I mean is, if you are applying for a job with a veterinarian, I'll use that example again. If you're applying for a job with a veterinarian, you may want to talk about all of the things that you've done regarding animals. You worked at the animal shelter. You work with bunnies. A lot of people work with bunnies, and put that in that you work with bunnies. And when it's in your cover letter, you can say, in my many years of working at the animal rescue center, I have done so and so and so and so. I've rescued so many animals, or whatever. Or you might want to say that you have animals of your own at home that you've been caring for how many years that you've been doing it for. But each letter should be customized. If you're going to work for a McDonald's, you would want to talk about the fact that you understand that it's a very fast-paced environment and you're used to working in that manner because of being on your soccer team. You had to make quick decisions, and you had to be a team player, and you had to have conversations that were precise and to the point. Okay? A cover letter should not be more than one page. Any more than one page gets too wordy, and the people that are, once again, they're reading your resume and your cover letter, they're not going to want to take that time to go through it. They will take the time to read the part of it, but they're not going to go through a 3 or 4 page cover letter. Bring a printed and signed copy to your interview. When you go to an interview, even if you've sent the cover letter and the resume ahead of time, which you have done, bring a clean copy with you and hand it to your future employer at the beginning of your interview. with two hands, as I've said before. And the reason you hand it with two hands is because you show them that it's a valuable piece of work. Bring a printed and signed copy to every single interview you go to. It's very important. And don't just throw that down on the table. Hand it over. Don't push it across the table. Once again, hand it over. And it makes a huge difference in the way an employer will accept it. So remember that. Back to the cover letter. The opening paragraph. Why are you writing the letter and why do you want the job? You're writing the letter because you want the job. That's the main reason you're writing it. But share some information about yourself and say, I would like to work at the veterinary because you're going in on an entry-level position, because you've always loved animals, because this is a passion of yours since you were in grade school. So all those little things are super important. Body of the paragraph in paragraphs 1 through 3. Describe an accomplishment, a past exploration you've done in the field, a class you've taken, or maybe about the what you like about that particular company that you're applying for the job with. Include any endorsements. If you have an endorsement, which is an important thing to try and write these down. If you have endorsements, I'm going to give you an example of an endorsement and you'll understand what I'm saying. It's really good to put it into your cover letter. In closing of the cover letter, repeat your interest in the job and say that you hope for a chance to be interviewed. End with a formal closing such as sincerely. And then after you type the word sincerely, skip 4 spaces down on the page and type out your name. And then in between sincerely and where you've typed out your name, sign it with your signature. And that's what you do with your cover letter. You want to be careful on the cover letter of not addressing the letter to whom it may concern. When you get the time that you're filling out an application for a certain company, if you're going to ABC company for a job, call ABC company or look them up online first and find out 3 facts that you did not know about the company before you looked it up. And then find out who it is in the hiring department or the work, in the workplace. If they have a human resources department, find out who takes in the applications. And when you find that out, then write to that person. But once they give you the name of the person, if you've called and you say, I'm looking for the name of the head of your resource development department or your human resources, either one. And they say that it's Jane Smith, for instance, they'd say it was Jane Smith. Ask them to spell Jane's name. Now, you may wonder why that you do that, but maybe Jane doesn't spell her name Jane. Maybe she spells it Jayne. And she might spell Smith Smithe or Smyth instead of Smith, which is the common way to spell it. And because you don't want to write it to someone and spell their name incorrectly. You want to complement your resume, but don't copy your resume. Remember, you're taking the things out of your resume, you're leaving your resume alone, but you're going to take the things out of your resume that are really important for the job and put those into the cover letter. Include an endorsement, and I'm going to show you an endorsement now. Share your knowledge about the company. If you know that ABC Company has been in business since 1982, say, I know that you've been in business for 40 years and I want to become a part of your team. I would like to see your business grow another 40 years. Once again, proofread. Make sure that you have proofread or had somebody proofread your cover letter. Now, this is a sample endorsement. After completing a recent group project, my teacher had this to say about my work. Elisa is a born leader. Her classmates only had positive feedback to share about her. I was impressed by how she delegated work to the group members according to each person's strengths. Now, if Alyssa went into that job interview and she said to them that she was a born leader and knew how to delegate people and only gets positive feedback from people, if she said that, it would sound like she was really proud of herself. And that's not the way you want it to do. But when somebody else says it, that makes it important. Or another endorsement would be, my supervisor at my last job described me as reliable in all situations and always a great team player. So remember a positive thing that a teacher said about you? What about taking a sentence from a letter of recommendation? If you've got letters of recommendation, those should be included, by the way, when you go to a job interview with your application and your resume and your cover letter. Put the letters of recommendation in there as well, copies of your letters of recommendation. They're just, you have to do all of the things that are going to help you get the job. It's very important that you treat each job as each job opportunity as an opportunity and really work towards getting it. I hope you're going to enjoy the things that I have said and that it has helped you in some way. And you know that you can always call the Workforce Development Office, and we are there to help you in any way that we can possibly do that. I thank you very much for listening, and we'll leave you with that. Good afternoon.